Okay, this is part 2 for App Inventor, Mole Mash tutorial. So we've designed our game here, we've put our canvas in, we've put a mole in, added a score label and a reset button. First of all, I'm just going to connect my tablet to App Inventor. So I'm going to go connect a companion. You don't need to do this straight away, but it does help whilst you're coding if it is connected, but not essential. You can always connect it when you are ready. So if I just type in my code and push connect to code, there we go. There, lovely. So my app is now connected to my tablet. However, as I can see on my tablet, it's not actually doing anything. The mole is just sitting there. That's because we haven't programmed it yet. So I'm going to go to the blocks editor. To make my mole move around, I'm going to make a new procedure. And this procedure is going to I'm going to call it move mole. Now, every time I call this move mole procedure, I want the mole to randomly move around my screen. So that means I'm going to have to set my image sprites, the mole sprite's x coordinate and y coordinate to a value. Now, I know that this canvas is 300 pixels wide, so 300 from the top here all the way down to the bottom here, that will be 300. So from there to there is 300. I don't know the distance from left to right because I've set that to fill parent. So that means if it's a big screen, it's going to be a larger distance. If it's a small screen, it's going to be a smaller distance. However, it's alright because I can work out and do a bit of calculation to work out how far to move. Now the coordinates on App Inventor work like this. In the top corner will be 0, 0. So this bottom corner on the left will be 0 for x and 300 for y, as it's 300 down. In the middle will be roughly 150, 150. Now, I want to make my mole move to a random area. So that means I need to set my x coordinate to a random number and my y coordinate to a random number. Under the math option, there's this random integer from 1 to 100, which will be quite useful for us. So now, if I call this procedure here, it's going to set the x and y coordinate to a random number between 1 and 100, which means on my App Inventor here, it's going to randomly appear in this top corner. So imagine it's 300 down, it's only going to go from between here, I'll draw a box where it's going to be around this area, because that's probably about 100 to 100. So let's give it a try. If I right click on this call and say do it, it will move. There we go, it's moved into that corner there. Let me just make my window a little bit smaller so we can see. There we go. Try again, do it. It's moved slightly upwards. Right click, do it. Move slightly over there. I would like to see if it moves, there we go, a bit more. Now, the problem is, I don't want it to move from 1 to 100, because that's only going to move in that top corner. I want to move it anywhere randomly on the screen. For the y, I know that the top is going to be 0 and the bottom is going to be 300, so I could in theory change that to 1 to 300. However, the coordinate is the top corner of the mole, so if it did choose 300, it could technically put it off the canvas and not actually appear, because the top of the mole would just peep out at the top of the canvas. So I don't want to have 300 here. Instead, what I'm going to do is going to put a takeaway. I know that the mole sprite has a height, so if I click on mole sprite, I can choose height. Which is here. And I also know that the canvas has a height. So if I click on canvas, height. Now what that's going to do is App Inventor will do some calculations here. It's going to say get a random integer, that means a whole number, from 1 to, and then it's going to do a bit of calculation, get the height of the canvas, which we know is 300, get the height of the mole, which is from there to there, and take that away. So I think the mole is, well, I'm not sure how high the mole is exactly, but it's quite easy to find out. If I go to the mole image, so this was the app site, and go to inspect element, I can see that, no, I forget which one it's on now. I thought it was element. Oh, there we go. 36 by 42 pixels. So I know that it's 42 in height, so it's going to get 300, take away 42, and then it's going to choose a random number from 1 to 250, wait, if it's 42, it'd be 56. So from 1 to 256, which will randomly choose anywhere from there to there. Again, we need to do that the same for the width. So I'm just going to cheat and duplicate that part, put it in there. But very importantly, I need to change this to width. The width of the canvas, take away the width of the mole. So that, we don't know how big the distance is from this side of the screen to that side of the screen, so that's why we want App Inventor to work it out for us. So that should work. If I right click on my move mole and say do it, there we go, it's moved right over to that end of the screen. I can do it again, and every single time it's going to move. However, I don't want to be having to right click and call it every single time. That's why we've got a clock. So if I click on my clock and go to the top and say timer and put my move inside of it, now every second, if remember we set this timer for 1 second, it will call whatever's inside of it. So it's going to call this procedure, move mole, every second. As you can clearly see, my mole is now moving around the screen. So that is the first part of the mole mash. I'll leave that here so you can see it more clearly. That is all of the code that you need to have.